talking about E3 and what's going on there. Just give me a second to switch the graphic, and then we will move on. Oh, wait, yeah, I don't have one for this one. Okay, so E3 is coming up this year. Everybody's wondering what's going on, what we're going to see. What's all the new goodies? Well, I've got a few hints of what we might be seeing. For Xbox, we might get a new Xbox Slim with maybe some new functions they're talking about, so we'll see that. We all know that Xbox kind of bought out the Oculus Rift, so, they're packing the controllers with it. We know that they have Oculus Rift support with Windows 10 on your computers. Maybe there's a chance it might come out for the Xbox, who knows. We know the HoloLens, they're probably going to show a lot more off on that and actually give us the date that it's going to be coming out soon. Games, we've got Halo Wars 2, which I'm actually looking forward to. Crackdown 3, you got those Gears of War. The game that I'm actually really think it looks pretty cool. It's kind of like in a cartoon type graphics, but it's Sea of Thieves by Rare. It's a pirate game. It's going to have a lot of good humor, a lot of good action. Come on, man. Who doesn't like being a pirate, for fuck's sake? Let's get that booty, shall we? Maybe even a State of Decay 2. But from PlayStation, of course, they're going to reveal more about the PS 4.5. It's going to be coming out this October. Around then, as the VR drops and all the specs that are going to be on that. Hopefully they give us some more word on Shenmue 3. Oh my god, that's such a great series. Of course, the VR and what its capabilities are going to be, how it's going to be used. And maybe its starting lineup of games for that. Persona 5, the trailer dropped out in Japan. Hopefully we'll be getting at that E3 will be getting a US release date, because God knows I'm looking for that. Another game that's probably going to be on all consoles that I'm looking forward to is, did you guys ever play South Park, The Stick of Destiny? Because if you did and enjoyed,
played Destiny a little bit.
That was a great game. But they're coming out with a new one called The Fractured Butthole. So, yay. By the way, Nintendo is not going to have a big haul movement this year. They're just going to have a small booth, and the only thing they're showing off is Zelda, which was supposed to be for the Wii U, but as we all know, since the NX is coming out, they pushed that back. So that's all we're going to get. They're not even going to show us anything about the NX, which is coming out in March. So they're probably going to say that for their own little expo in Japan. So really nothing from Nintendo this year, except, showing off the new Zelda that'll be coming out. And let's see. Another topic that I want to talk about is E3 dying, because a lot of game developers actually pulled out this year. EA did, Disney Interactive, War Gaming, and even Activision. A lot of people saying E3 is kind of going the wayside. So on all those topics and everything, what popped out to you guys? What do you guys want to talk about?
I think with the whole E3 dying, I think a lot of reasons that EA pulled out is that the only things that EA is really making as of right now are the same games that they've made every year. So you'll have Madden every year, you'll have NBA every year. It's the same thing every year. What else do they have to show us?
Yeah, very true, very true.
As far as Disney Interactive goes, it's the same thing. Disney Interactive isn't changing. Yes, they're adding new characters. Woo.
Yeah, I feel you on that one.
I mean, I don't believe that E3 is dying as of yet. It's still the biggest convention to hear about what's coming up next. Yes, you'll hear at other conventions, like hearsay and this, that, and the other, but unless it's actually said on E3, it's not completely set in stone.
But see, what from I've been hearing about the developers, and what they're thinking is, they can release this information a lot easier and a lot cheaper than paying for a booth and all these people to present their game, this and that E3 is somewhat biased nowadays, especially in how it's handled and covered. Nintendo's completely pulled out for just a little booth to show off Zelda. They're waiting for all their Japanese ones and this and that, which isn't surprising. It's Nintendo, but for Activision,
you also have to understand, the past couple years, Nintendo has been completely pushed, set to the side because of Xbox and PS3.
The only reason they're still around is Pokemon.
Yeah.
Well, I want to say Zelda's still a big running game for them. All their Mario games are, so.
Nintendo was set, although they have some very gritty games, I will admit, out there, it was set as a family-friendly console, like all the way. It's like, and that's great. Like for starting, like for families, that should be the console they get their kids. They shouldn't be getting them Xboxes and PlayStations. They should start with the Wii and work their way up.
So that's what I did with my girls.
And it's like, but the people that are going to E3 are generally adults that want to see, hey, I want to see what Xbox and PlayStation are doing. Although, I mean, that's what that's about. I can see that's why Nintendo's pulled out.
Yeah, and what it really comes back out to is that, it's a lot of what is, back to where it's supply and demand. People that go to E3, they tend to be more competitive. They want the kind of games that, are going to be developed for PS4 and for Xbox, something that may not be exactly as family friendly as what Nintendo has in mind. I know that Nintendo tries to make some games that are a little bit more challenging, but in the gore aspect, the realism, you're really going to find it in PC, PS4, and Xbox One, and you're just really not going to get that with Nintendo. And I think that's what the reason, behind, Nintendo moving away from E3.
Now, the thing with Nintendo is they're coming out with that new NX that supposedly has the same power as PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, and super easy for third-party developers, and they've been sending out the dev kits too. So I think they're trying to get back into that market of like the Super Nintendo, N64, and NES, where you got your family-friendly games, but you also got these really third-party games. So we'll see where that goes. Any of the games jump out at you guys?
Final Fantasy.
I want to see more of that. Shenmue 3.
I do want to see more of that.
I playing 9 again.
Oh, did you?
I want to play 8 again.
I love 8.
I'm actually
8 was one of my. Now, what I want to know from E3 is that I want to hear that it's not just coming out for PlayStation, because most Xbox wasn't around when the PlayStation 1 was out. So a lot of people that loved Final Fantasy 7, like myself, like I love Final Fantasy 7, I loved 8, I liked playing 9, I did Final Fantasy Tactics, like all of these games that were on PlayStation. I want them to be out for both consoles, because the fans are now on both sides.
Yeah.
Like, you have no point to sell them on just one. You'll get so much money for selling them on both. Like, I want to hear they will be selling it for both.
See, so do I, and that's very true what you said about the fan base. One thing I'm wondering about is, what do you guys think about the change, the fighting mechanics for the new Final Fantasy? Yeah, Final Fantasy.
What?
I was about to say Final Star.
Which kind of mechanics are they? Aren't so? I know they aren't using the original mechanics that they had in 7.
Yeah.
No, it's
I haven't actually.
Like 13.
It's gonna be like what?
13s.
Oh God.
Yeah.
But to go back to what you were just saying, to caveat on that, with the multiple platforms, Steam has just been releasing, left and right a PC port, which leads me to believe that they're going to release it for multiple platforms. Tactics was even originally released for the handheld, just because of its simplicity and everything like that. So honestly, I see Square being intelligent enough to go, well, there's so much more for us to gain from multiple platforms. We might as well, Yoshi, start developing it for the Xbox. And something like that. I mean, it's stupid to hinder it. Honestly, you'll hinder your fan base. You'll hinder new generations getting used to the game. I don't see it going to like a handheld per se, but I definitely see it branching to PC, Xbox One, and PlayStation 4.
Because I mean, even with the new Final Fantasy that's coming out, that's being released for all consoles. So I don't understand why they would just hold it just for the PlayStation 4. I haven't heard anything about it releasing for anything else.
I get what you're saying. I mean, but you got to think E3 is also the place where we've learned that basically the exclusive for this console or that console had pretty much just died off. Where nobody wants it to be, oh, I just bought Tommy, the PlayStation 38 or whatever the hell it will be by the time I'm in my mid-50s. But they don't want exclusive games anymore because they realize they stopped and they realized they're like, oh man, we lose so much more profit.
Right.
And then if we go to E3, we only have one booth and set up to play it on one type of console. Well, the diehard Xbox boy, a fanboy, is going to be like, oh well, yes, they ain't getting my business. Now I'm not even looking their way when I hear a different game coming out. You can go from an RPG shooter developed by Asswipe Games Productions or whatever, and they can end up making a totally different one, like a casual sandbox. But because Asswipe Games decided, oh, we're only gonna make this for PlayStation, the Xbox fanboy Timmy is just like, oh no, I'm done.
Yeah, right off the bat. Now, one that I am happy, like I got to give PlayStation props for, is last year the creator of Shenmue came up, was like, PlayStation's going to help us out. We're setting up a Kickstarter. Shenmue was a game that I loved on the Dreamcast. The Dreamcast, you have to understand, is during the time of N64 and PlayStation 1, this console came out and had the graphics of basically almost an Xbox 360. It was ahead of its time. Now, this game was a sandbox before most games even knew what a sandbox was. On top of that, it had realistic day-night weather, actually the realistic weather for the time period that it was set in, literally going off what the weather was on that day. Relationship involvements, it had working mechanics, this, that. It was like one of the most in-depth games ever made at a time when that was unheard of. It was beautiful graphics. Then Shenmue 2 came out on Xbox, which fans loved that they actually carried on the story, after, of course, Sega consoles died. But then we waited for years for Shenmue 3 to recap the story and end it off and give it a good send-off, and no word. But last year, of course, E3, they came out and that's what we're doing this Kickstarter, PlayStation's helping us. We've had no word since they raised the money about what's going on, so hopefully at E3 we'll get some more word on that one, because that game was amazing. I'm like, if you want to play a really in-depth, great game, check out Shenmue on the Dreamcast or Shenmue 2 on Xbox. So I'm really stoked that we might be getting some more news on that. Anything else, guys?
Oh, isn't Gears of War 4 supposed to be announced at E3?
Yep, I actually brought that up. Yes. So a lot of fans of that one, which I did love the first three, are going to be happy about that one. Also, a Crackdown 3. I actually dug the first two Crackdowns. I know some people did, some people didn't. Yeah, Crackdown 3's coming.
Oh, Lord.
And a Halo Wars 2. Go figure that.
Alright, well.
Wait. Who's making that Halo? Is it the 360 or whatever, or is it Bungie?
I don't know. Let me look that up. You guys discuss more about the E3, and I'll look that up real quick.
But we're still gonna have. Let's see.
I'm just wondering, with the VR dropping.
Michelle, do you wanna?
Oh.
Total War is developing that, by the way. The same people who did, who was it? Alien? Alien what? Is it Alien Isolation? Huh, who is making that? It's Total War, but I think it's the people that... It can't be the same people who did Alien Isolation, is it? Oh well, but that's who's making it, so... Yeah, and the first one was made by Assemble Studios. So it wasn't even made by Bungie. Yeah, Alien Isolation and the Total War series. So it's in good hands. Definitely in some good hands.
You said Total War, and that just reminded me Warhammer is coming to... was at E3 last year.
Oh. Warhammer.
Yes.
Okay.
If that gives you an idea of where they change gears, like I was talking about earlier, developers making different games and stuff.
Yeah, look at Bethesda and how they branched out. They went from Elder Scrolls to Fallout, which is pretty close still, but then to Evil Within, to Wolfenstein, and now the new Doom, which is I've been playing and I'm really enjoying so far. So.
Because Bethesda is awesome.
Yeah, I love it when a game company has the balls to go outside their comfort zone and not make the same 8th franchise game for the 8th time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is true.
If that's all for E3, I believe it's Michelle's.
Yep.